Okay, hi. Um, it's currently June, tail end of Pride Month, uh, and I have just seen a video on my feed that I would just like to very briefly talk about, um, called I'm Gay and I Dislike Pride Month by Finding Sky. Now, I really did not want to make a video about this initially, but the more I watched this, it's only like 6 minutes. The more I watched this 6 minute video, the more I realized that like somebody had to say something, especially because this video has so many views and only according to my extension that returns the YouTube dislikes, 414 dislikes. And I'm willing to bet that a vast majority of those likes are from straight people going, yeah, why do we have to support the gays? But it could be a large majority of extremely stupid gay people as well, you know? We aren't geniuses, nor are we philosophers on the whole. I think this video is so dumb it's painful to watch. Like, I literally had to pause a 6 minute video multiple times in order to recollect how utterly stupid I think the arguments in this video are. Essentially, and I'll link the video, but essentially the arguments made in this video are that Pride Month is useless because the best way to be treated as normal is to attempt to fit in more. And what Pride does is it very flagrantly and openly represents sexuality in a way that makes this person individually very uncomfortable, especially because this person believes that the aspect of their sexuality, like that their sexuality isn't a very large aspect of their identity as a person, and that it shouldn't be treated that way by society. And I think this is not only a take I've seen like 300,000 quadrillion bajillion fucking times, but also never stops being wrong and stupid and dumb. So I'm gonna talk about why. So another one of the things that I've noticed about this video is that it uses a lot of images that are sort of like conservative scaremongering images. You know, there's this very popular image of these two, what is that kink called? It's like puppy play, I think. Dudes interacting with a small girl. And the whole thing is like, look at what these perverts are trying to push on our children. In reality, what's probably going on in this image, if I had to guess, was that children just aren't generally supposed to be at pride parades. Like, yes, there are family-friendly ones, but on the whole, you really shouldn't be bringing your child to one. And when you bring your child to a pride parade, they're going to see the guys in the dog outfits and go, hey, look, those guys are wearing dog outfits, and they're not going to think of it in any way other than that. And then that puts those people in a situation where they now have to interact with this small child and be like, hi, yeah, we are dressed like doggies, hi, and then like try to go on about their day as if that's not extremely awkward. Like, if anything, when I see this image, again, I've seen it a lot, it's a scaremongering image. Every time I see this image, I feel a great deal more sympathy for the dudes who had to like sit there and awkwardly interact with a small child on Pride. So this person says being told that I'm proud to be gay is like being told that I need to be proud of having brown hair and two hands. The issue with that is that there has never been a widespread oppression of two-handers. Never happened. That's never been a thing. We don't need a two-handed pride parade because there was never an incident in which a bunch of police stormed a two-handed bar. That's never happened before. So yeah, you're not told that you need to be proud of being two-handed because that's already seen as normal. It's already seen as something that everybody has. In fact, people who don't have two hands, you know, who fall outside the norm, can often face bullying and scrutiny when they're young because of it. Surprisingly, society is just not very accepting of difference. So this person says that it's a little bit awkward to see a lot of rainbow posts and whatnot on Pride Month, calling attention to an aspect of yourself that this person doesn't really pay attention to. And I would just like to say that it is an incredibly privileged position in somebody's life to not have to pay attention to that aspect of themselves. Because for a very, very large portion of people in this community, that aspect of our existence comes into play every single day of our lives in one way or another. This person will go on later in this video to say, oh, not everybody is going to see things eye to eye to you. And yes, that is true, which is why I find this first part of the video so strange, in which this person is going on and on about, oh, I don't personally experience this as a very large aspect of my life, because plenty of people definitely do. Let's go over some things. If you are not cisgender, if you are not white, if you are not attractive, and if you are not a certain set of abilities, the aspect of your life that queerness occupies will become exponentially greater because it's amplified by all of those other marginalizations. Yes, if you're just queer on top of like literally being normal in every single other aspect, it's not going to come up that much because you pass under the radar of society to an extent. That's to an extent, by the way, because there are plenty of parts of the world, and indeed just the United States, where that's not going to be the case anymore. So it's also location as well. Either way, this is not a good argument. I don't experience that much of a difference in my life, whether or not I'm gay or straight, is not a good argument as to why there should not be a Pride Month, and I don't think it should be as prevalent as it is. So this person says that Pride parades essentially make gayness special. And I don't believe that that's true. I don't think that's the point of a Pride parade. Any reading on the history of Pride would probably tell you that that's not the point of a Pride parade. But even so, not wanting to be treated like you are special is also not a good reason to annex Pride parades. Riots, by the way, don't happen just because people want to be violent and awful. People on the news might tell you that because it's in their vested interest to appear as normal as possible. But the whole point of doing things like rioting is in order to call attention to a social issue. Pride calls attention to a social issue by being loud and flagrant. So this person is saying that the only way you're going to reach normalcy is if you stop highlighting the fact that you're different. Now, this is very, I want to say like it's almost like self-help level advice. There are two assumptions being made in this argument here that I would like to argue. The first one is that highlighting a difference as it is highlighted in society is going to somehow shake somebody's normalcy in society. The problem with that is that we are already not accepted as normal in society. I don't care if you've never been punched in the face for being gay. At the same time, the assumption here is that the point is to reach normalcy, which that's not, as far as I'm aware, the point in the first place. The point is to change what is normal. So, no, I don't want to be treated like I'm normal right now, because what's normal right now is unacceptable. What's considered normal right now is such a small, tiny aspect of the human population that it's oppressive on a wide, massive scale. What's normal should be broadened, not people who aren't fitting that definition of normalcy squished and crunched down into what that definition of normal is. I don't want to be silent and never have to talk about my sexuality again in order to be treated as normal by society. I want that to already be normal in society. So this person is basically catering to the straight anxiety of, I don't want to appear homophobic. And the whole thing is, this is very similar to what I see a lot of white people being like, oh, I'm not racist, I'm not racist, I'm not racist. I really don't care whether or not straight people are comfortable. Like, straight people have been comfortable the whole time. They can stand to be a little uncomfy when you say, oh, I'm gay, in exchange for you being treated as a normal person with rights equal to theirs. Like, I'm sorry if it makes gay people a little, or if it makes straight people a little bit uncomfy sometimes. Like, oh my god, grow up. Who cares? Again, this is very similar to how like white people treated the Black Lives Matter movement of like, but what if it makes me uncomfortable? It's like, I don't care. Who cares? Again, so this person is saying we should reconsider giving relevance to this irrelevant detail about us. But for the record, this is not an irrelevant detail to a very large portion of the community. Second of all, what do you mean we're placing relevance on it? The gay question has been a conversation society has been having since like the 1960s. You and I didn't place relevance on that. That's been the conversation since before either of us were born. That has nothing to do with what the gay, queer teenagers on your TikTok feed are saying. That has nothing to do with that. Why do gay people need acceptance? What do you mean? Because we're not accepted by society. And this person goes on immediately after this to say, and this is one of my favorite arguments of all time, that gay marriage was legalized. So what else do we have to fight for? Racism didn't end when the slaves were freed, right? Right? You do understand that, don't you? Like, yes, one event in one part of the world towards acceptance for a community is good, but that did not end homophobia forever, right? And by the way, there are more parts of the world left to fight for, bud. We've still got more work to do than whether or not people are allowed to put each other on the wedding cake. There's still more work to do. The unacceptance at stake here is not somebody might bully you a little bit in high school. It's whether or not you get dragged through the street and beaten up for being a trans woman. Whether they can still, you realize they can still take away our right to marry, right? They can still take away our right to marry, like that's not set in stone. Okay, so this person says, I feel like straight people are pretty supportive. And then immediately goes on to say, yeah, but I've been called slurs more times than I can count. But like lots of people voted for gay marriage. It's like, okay, well then you've still just given an example of a level on which you are interpersonally affected by prevalent homophobia in our society. Why should we just be chill with that? Why are you chill with that? Why do you, what is with this? Freedom to believe whatever you want is fine, and I believe in that. Like, I believe that people should be free to believe whatever they want. I just don't believe that I should have to sit there while we get brutalized, called slurs, have our rights taken away, and just be like, yeah, well, it's freedom of speech. Like, okay, what about my freedom of speech? What about my freedom to go out in the middle of the streets and start parading? This is not a matter of whether or not we agree with each other during a minor debate. This is a matter of whether or not people in this community die. Lives are on the table here. This is not about the discourse. Touch grass, this is not about the discourse. Again, pride parades are not about screaming at people that they're evil and homophobic. If you've actually been to a pride parade, which this person openly has not, you would see that there is no screaming at people happening. It's just people happily expressing themselves. Now, there are people screaming at each other on the sides next to pride parades, homophobically protesting the existence of gay people. You know what they do in response to the people protesting pride? They ignore them and continue having the pride parade, because that's the point. So this person then goes on to say, and again, I think this makes their whole argument moot, maybe, but as long as they aren't trying to gatekeep you, which is such an internet word, or actively harm you, then that lack of acceptance shouldn't bother you. And again, this is a point of an extraordinarily privileged perspective, because for the record, and just once again, they are actively still trying to harm us. This is not a battle that's already been won. Okay, so this is where we start to get into a very slippery slope towards conservative ideology. The idea that pride is marketing gayness. It's not. That's stupid. I think everybody with a 2-cent brain would probably know that that's not the case. And this is what I think is so dangerous about hot takes like this, is that all they really do is solidify an urge in straight people to guard themselves from things that they find challenging in a way that very, very, very heavily opens up a much larger portion of these groups to conservative ideology, which is intentionally designed to comfort people into hatred, you know? There are a lot of videos about this. There are a lot of articles about this. I'm not going to go into the specifics of how indoctrination to right-wing ideology works, but there is a level of like reassurance to it. There's like oh, you don't have to accept gay people. It's okay. It's not okay. I don't think it is. And being in left-wing circles, you are more often needing to confront parts of yourself, confront biases, and that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people, despite being necessary in a lot of cases. So a lot of people tend to lean into conservative ideology. And this is what I'm talking about in this video, is that this is a very subtle nod towards the conservative ideology of like, they're pushing being gay on us. They're making us accept it. This is another like sort of like, look at what they're doing argument. The flag being a rainbow. So like, oh, LGBT is presented as all sunshine and rainbows. The flag is even a rainbow. The flag's been a rainbow for longer than you or I have been alive. Again, that has nothing to do with us right now. That's just the symbology that's been used for this community for decades, for longer than you or I have been here.
It's been a year since I released my last LGBT video about Pride, and what's amazing is that 2 million people watched it, but it feels like nobody listened.
2 million people watched my video, but nobody listened, guys. Guys, nobody listened. Listen, guys. Oh my god. Guys, listen. Listen, oh my god. Guys. Guys, my hot take! Why isn't anybody applauding me for my hot take?